Welcome back to another Get to Know the Pro video that we are doing. My name is Sam Fiorella. I am one of the administrators here at Echo Means Business. This time we are talking to Mr. Copper Creek's himself, Bradley Behr. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Doing excellent, excellent. So, Brad, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I think you probably don't need any introduction, but for those, three people in North American food industry that don't know who you are.
Sure. My name is Brad Behr. I'm trying not to repeat the same introduction I say in my videos, and now I'm getting tongue-tied from it. Hi, this is Brad with Copper Creek Cuts, a lawn care company in Northeast Florida. But yeah, so as you joked, probably a lot of people know me for really messy yards or really dirty things, pressure washing, oddly satisfying, if we can use that term.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And that, let's talk a little bit about that. You have not, I think everybody knows your business. They know what you do. You follow him on Copper Creek Cuts if you don't. But I don't know that that's what people are necessarily interested here from this series. We've had a couple of, we've had some emotional conversations, or at least for me, some of the conversations, especially with first responders, get me almost teary-eyed. So I'd like to sort of keep that up. Not that I want to make you cry. I'm not.
What I was going to say, I'm probably a lot more shallow than most of those folks. So, and I'm not a first responder, so don't worry about any of that.
Yeah. So but let's talk a little bit about you, the business. How did you get into this? You were not, one of those kids that started a lawn care business when you were 14. You were in the professional world, suit and tie kind of guy.
Yeah. So I actually started working for Florida Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida, which is a health insurance company, in high school. The school I went to had a special on-the-job training program where if you were in the right set of classes, you could work doing data entry, just typing in claims part-time. So I started working for them when I was 16. When I graduated, I went on full-time with them, ended up meeting my wife there. And so about my 11th year of service, 11th or 12th, I think, we had been married for less than a year, and we found out that she was pregnant. And so we moved back to my hometown because it was a little bit slower pace of life. And I went part-time so that I could stay home and help raise our daughter. And my parents helped out a lot too. And then in 2015, we had our second kid. And at that point, we looked at my wife's education background and her career potential and mine. And we said, honey, you can make a lot more money than I can. If you're okay with it, I'm fine staying at home being Mr. Mom. And so that's what we did. So she works full time. She still does at that point. She pays for all the real bills in the house. And April 2015 is when I retired. So from then till about 2016, I was just stay-at-home dad, and that's really all I did. And then as the kids got a little bit older, I wanted to be productive. I wanted to help my wife out as far as the finances of the house. And when I sat and thought of what are the things I can do, and I'm still mainly, even to this day, I still consider myself first a stay-at-home dad and a lawn care guy second, and then a YouTuber third. So what can I do where I really have to have full control of my schedule? And lawn care is really the only thing where you can charge your own prices, you can work for yourself, and generally speaking, it doesn't matter when the work gets done, within reason. I would say about a day or two. And here in Florida, if you have reasonable clients, that can even stretch further if the weather is bad, right? So that's really how I got into it. Was I just wanted to get out of the house. I wanted to help my wife. The kids didn't need my attention as much, and lawn care just made sense.
Do you consider yourself full-time or part-time in this industry now?
I consider myself part-time. So, right now it's still February and nothing's growing. I'm Florida, but I'm North Florida. I'm 10 minutes from Georgia. So we still have 3 or 4 months where nothing really but weeds grow. So I can really scale back. But even during the peak of summer, I was really only working 3 days a week. And that was because I was actively turning down jobs because, again, I mainly consider myself stay-at-home dad. So that was always the main thing, was I couldn't push too much onto my family because I felt like that was my main responsibility. So, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask about that. I want to dive into that concept of being part-time a little bit. There's a lot of, I'm trying to be careful with the words that I use here.
I think I know where you might be going. And if you're worried about hurting my feelings, you don't
No,
have
no, God, no, not you. I've been trying to kick you out of the UAG program for 2 years and you just won't go away. Trust me, you know me well enough to know that I'm never worried about hurting your feelings. I'm more, it's more, there's a little bit, the word that's coming to my mouth is bigotry, but that's not the word. There's a little bit of snobbery. That's it. There's a lot of snobbery, not a little bit, a lot of snobbery in this industry that I've discovered over the last 6 years that I've been involved in it through Echo Means Business community, um, around those who have bigger businesses, who are full-time, who have maybe doing it for 10 years or 20 years. But there's a lot of, thumbing your nose at guys who do this part-time. The way I look at it personally, and I've talked about this in another Get to Know the Pro video, this is a part-time work, full-time business, because you still need if you're going to be doing 3 days a week versus 5 days a week, you still need the same equipment. Your expenses, your marketing expenses, your customer service, I mean, that's all there. You just got less money to do it with. So to me, that's even harder. Do you find that, despite your success on YouTube, do you find that within the community you still get some of that negativity, or you're not a real business?
I do. And I think I would say probably more of it's unspoken. There's been very few instances where people have personally attacked me, but there have been those instances where your point isn't valid because you don't work as much as I do. And at least my reasoning is I think there's two camps of people. There's going to be people who are open-minded and they'll take things with a grain of salt. So if I say, I've had good success with this mower, granted, I'm not running it full time, they'll say, that seems reasonable. Let me adjust my own thinking because I am running it full time. So there's that group of people who's understanding. Then there's the people who, unless you're above them, they won't consider anything you say. And I think those kind of people you're never going to get through to. But the other thing is, that's kind of a silly viewpoint, because by that own logic, your viewpoint is not valid because somebody's always going to have a bigger company than you, right? There's always going to be Brickmans or Brightviews who the CEO is 20 levels removed from the worker. And so, if you think, well, someone who's smaller can't have a valid opinion, well, then your opinion isn't valid either because there's somebody always bigger than you, right?
Yeah, that's something that I've never understood. And I've really struggled with this because, as you know, we welcome part-time, what the industry calls a part-time business owner into the UAG program, simply because I think it's like 40% of the membership out there of the green industry pros are part-time. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily doing this full-time. Right. Or they're paying their way through college or whatever, their situation is, or they're retired and they're doing it just for some extra income. So I personally feel it's very important to represent that voice and that experience in the UAG in order to mentor those people and to give them the advice. But so it bothers me considerably when I see it. That's why I wanted to actually address it with somebody who's seen the negative side of that out there.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that can really mess with your mind if you let it. It bothered me and even during the first several years of my YouTube career, I was very careful about what I would say, because in the back of my mind, I was always discrediting, well, this is what you think, but you better say X, Y, and Z because you've only been doing this for 2 years. So, that kind of thing. There's a lot of negative that goes along with social media, and that was a big one for me to try and get over.
I remember your early videos. I've known you since you actually from the year that you started.
Pretty much, yeah.
I remember you starting a lot of your videos, but I don't know, this is just me. I'm new to this, and
yeah.
You kept sort of having to give that disclaimer.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I got this product for free to test. It's like, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
And you shouldn't do that, because the reality is, what I'm noticing is that, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this or watching this will agree, there's even people who've been in this industry for a very long time still don't know how to run a business.
Right.
You know what I mean? They might know how to Stripe really well. They might know how to take apart a carburetor, but they don't know how to run a business.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's opinion, everybody's experience is valid because it's coming from a place, if it's coming from a place of honesty. That leads me to the next thing I want to talk to you about is authenticity and honesty when it comes to being a social media influencer. There's only a few people in our group that I could talk to about this that have achieved the kind of level and success that you have. A lot of our past members that have become, Instagram celebrities or YouTube celebrities have basically moved on, to try and make a career out of being a celebrity. And others like you have stuck around. And I know that every year that goes on, there's a little bit more cynicism around people who try and become, a spokesperson and try and be have a YouTube career. So I'd like you to address kind of your experiences around that. What's been the reaction to you and what you're doing?
So there's a couple of layers to it, and I think one of them is how you present products. So that's another reason I was very, very careful, like you said, with the 3.5 minutes of disclaimer before I even told you what kind of product I was using, is I never wanted to come across as someone who was saying, you should buy this product because I want the company to like me. I would just say, this is what I experienced, do with it what you will, that kind of thing. So I think the presentation helps a lot. And like I even know, if you get a brand new tool, I don't think there's anything wrong with like an unboxing video, but if you do 6 of them at once, then that can kind of send a message that Brad's just getting a boatload of stuff from somebody. So a lot of it is your presentation, where they say presentation is everything when it comes to food. In some senses, it plays a big part in YouTube as well. So that was one thing. And then the other, as I got more comfortable on YouTube, I'm pretty much a jokester or a clown in real life. And I think when you look at probably the last year of my YouTube videos, my uploads, when you see these little 1-minute skits that I'll do that are they're almost solely to get a laugh, right? It's not even, everything's moving so fast you can't even see the product, but having your real personality shine through. Because I remember too, another thing when I started was I said, I want to be like this old house for lawn care. So a lot of my stuff was very matter of fact. Hi, this is Brad. We're going to talk about string trimmer length, fixed or rotating head, and should you use which one? And it was dry, but again, I thought that was safe. As I've gotten more comfortable, it's kind of more of I've seen success. I've been doing it a while. I'm going to be myself more. I'm going to be okay with people's reaction to it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's so what is is it worth it? Like if somebody's in the industry part-time trying to say, you know what, I want to do this. I would want to spend a lot of time building up a big social media audience. Not a lot of guys do it. They figure I don't have time for that. I need to focus on running my business and, developing videos for others, potential competitors or others takes away from time that I should be marketing to my end customer. Is it worth it? Would you recommend this to others out there?
I want to do one tangent real quick. That exact argument you just did is something I see, again, full-time guys or a lot of people who seem to be negative, they will levy at other creators. If they had a real business, they wouldn't have time to be making these videos. I work 60 hours a week and and they may be right that they don't have time to do it, but that doesn't mean somebody else can't run a full-time business, not talking about me, and still do YouTube. That's a funny thing I've noticed that you might have been alluding to when you said that. I do think it's worth it. You have to really enjoy the video making process. That goes from filming to trying to think things up, to being in front of the camera, to the editing, to the making thumbnails, to the doing descriptions. If you don't like that stuff and you just love lawn care, you can still do it. It's going to be much more difficult and it's going to feel a lot more work than fun or enjoyable. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's certainly not to say anything bad about any channels, but what I've seen some of the original guys who started in 2015, 16, a lot of them are still active, and some of it's where they live. You can't make mowing videos in the winter, so their channels kind of shutter for 4, 5, 6 months at a time. it can make it a lot more difficult to stay consistent. But I do think it's worth it because of opportunities like, Echo Means Business or working with companies where, a lot of people say, oh, Brad's just doing it to get equipment. And getting equipment is great, but there's also the point of somebody's going to be starting their business and they're going to need to know what string trimmer is best for under $200. And so a lot of it is trying to make content that, I think we use the term evergreen, which means it happens every year, but that's going to be around for a long time. So people making these searches down the road so that they can benefit from your experience or wisdom. I'll use the term wisdom extremely loosely in regards to myself.
There you go. You've got to start promoting yourself a little bit more. I don't know whether you noticed, but I had my company name, Sensei Marketing, in the lower third there instead of San Fiorella. I just switched it because I realized that I didn't. But the reason I point that out is because I'm not a lawn care professional. I feel like I'm what's the term? I'm buzzword compliant. So, I know the terms, I know the products because I manage this community along with the team for so long. But I basically run a marketing company, and so what I know is marketing more than anything else. And when I look at it, and we do manage influencers for other brands, that's what they do, right? That's all they do is they want to get paid to huck and promote a product. And I've yet to find anybody that's making huge amounts of money as an influencer, which that word just sends shivers up my back. I hate that. I don't hate them. I hate the concept behind it. But what I've never is a single one of them that runs a full-time business that, basically is mowing 100 yards a week or has 60 to 100 properties a week and can still make a full-time living. You know what I mean? So I always say to these guys, and I also teach influence marketing at a college. So it's like, I always say, listen, what's your goal? You know what I mean? So if for anybody that's out there considering this as a marketer who manages these types of communities and these types of programs, I say, if you have 15 to 20 hours a week to do the research, to become an SEO expert, to learn how to do post editing, to do all the things that you need to do to get to the level where you're going to be making enough money to survive off of a YouTube channel. That 20 hours a week or more that you have to do that, is that better spent doing videos for your end audience, the people that buy your product, so that you get more lawns to cut, more patios to build? Is that your goal? Is that how you want to make money? Or do you want to make, and what's the sure thing for you? Because becoming a YouTube celebrity or a creator that can earn 6 figures on YouTube is probably a riskier proposition than putting that effort into getting, 100 lawns and getting an extra crew. Would you agree with that?
I would, yeah. And it's interesting, and I feel maybe a little validated in what I'm about to say because, my niche, which is oddly satisfying stuff that YouTube can shove down people's throats by the millions, people who don't have lawns, people who live in cities, people who might never pick up a pressure washer or mower will still sit there and watch me for 8 minutes because of those things you talked about. All those things I make sure is right. The camera's angle is changed every 5 seconds. I make sure I don't have any dead space where I'm all that kind of stuff. There's some people who, and I'm not the original, so I'm not trying to say that I am, but there's folks who have started since me who are seeing a lot of success in channel growth. So I think if you do want to go for something like that, you have to realize that there are things that will get you there, and then there are things that won't. And I know a reason that a lot of folks who have been doing this a lot longer than me have far less views and subscribers is because they want to help people and they want to teach people. And I think that's amazing and that's great. But in this day and age, entertainment is always going to beat teaching, right? And even for people who do want to learn, the amount of people who want to learn about lawn care, running a lawn care business, why should I have credit cards on file? Which software is going to be, the target audience gets smaller and smaller and smaller with that. versus this kind of silly, oddly satisfying stuff that I do. So to go back to the original question, I do think it's worth it, but set your expectations up front. If you want to be a resource for the community and only teach, it's going to take a lot longer to see success. So don't count your success by views and numbers and subscribers, because it'll only get you frustrated, and you won't be happy when 2 or 3 people say, this really helped me out, I appreciate it, that's awesome if you can influence or help people in that way. But if you're only focused on the numbers, so it's there's a lot of things that play into it, and a lot of it's, I think, mentally unhealthy. So you've really got to be careful about how you approach this stuff.
I know there's a similar argument in my business, because I've been on stages. I spent 10 years on stages. I wrote a book on marketing. I'm now teaching. It's a textbook in a university, so I'm teaching it at the university. So I did that. I did that ramp up where I became, uber famous, and I was, paid to speak at conferences and all that kind of stuff. But what I found that I got a lot of notoriety, and I got to travel a lot. I got to meet a lot of people. I got a lot of nice perks, but I saw zero increase in my actual business, right? Then I had a personal tragedy in my life, and I stopped it. I said, I'm not traveling anymore. That's just, that was just so unimportant to me, when you have that kind of a loss. And what I found is that my business has been doubling ever since I stopped going on stages, ever since I stopped trying to promote myself as a celebrity. And so I lost all of that. I lost all the perks. I don't travel nearly as much as I used to. I speak at very few conferences now. And those are typically, Echo actually was one of the conferences that I spoke at that started this whole project. So I only speak at corporate events, not at, industry events anymore, that kind of stuff. For me personally, for whatever that's worth for people out there, you can be successful and do well, but it's not long term. It really is. There's a shelf life on it. Whether the industry changes, just look at the beauty industry, which is really big with the social media. Even the only thing maybe that lasts a little bit longer is maybe guys who do entertainment, videos, just because of the nature of what that is. But even those guys have a shelf life. So unless you plan on making all of your money, in 4, 5, 6 years, your time will come up. And then what do you got? Make sure you've got a business on the back end that's solid. Otherwise, you might, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass at some point. Anyway, final question. Regrets. What regrets have you had in your career so far doing this? Personal or business-wise?
That's a good one. I think one thing that I wish, so I think I had a really good start because, like I said, I never had to get a lawn to pay a light bill, which I'm so thankful for. And that's a very comfortable situation to be in. I don't take it for granted. Anytime someone asks me, what's your best piece of advice? It would be start a lawn care business, even a very small one now when you have extra time, but you don't need the money, because then you can kind of grow it to suit your needs. But the other thing is, and this is kind of the regret, is that when I first started out, I watched all these guys on YouTube and I took a lot of good information away from them. Some of the stuff I couldn't get over though, like pricing or figuring out whatever my value was. And I would still find myself, but this is a 2-acre job. This could be a really, really good job. And so I drive 20 minutes one way. And I would even think this is really, really far, but it's going to feel so good to say I have a 2-acre property and, maybe it'll give me an in to the neighborhood. And when I knew better, based on what these guys who had been doing it a lot longer had done. So I feel like I've made very few mistakes because, again, I was able to very early on make those errors where I said, wait a minute, this is stupid. I'm spending an hour of travel time and I'm making like $10 an hour when everything's all done. So I wish I would have probably paid a little bit more attention to those things. And to my credit, a lot of the stuff I did do, like getting credit cards on file right away, so you don't have to chase checks or money and, getting uniforms and all kinds of stuff like that. But there were still some things where I couldn't get over in my own mind. oh, well, I would never pay that much for service. So somebody else wouldn't. So I'm going to lower my price so I don't, shock them, that kind of thing. But I think if it's easier, I think maybe everybody's going to do those kind of mistakes, but it's easier to get past them if you have a part-time business where the stakes aren't so high and you can say, wait, no, I'm doing this wrong, versus if you have to have that money to pay for a car or a light bill or something, then you're kind of stuck doing whatever it takes to get the money, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well, listen, I got to say that I'm a big fan of yours. You know that, despite the fact that I've been trying to kick you out of this program for a little while, but only because I can be the only comic in the group. I don't like it when there's actually somebody who's funnier than me and takes
Competition, right? Competition.
But I'm a big fan for a couple of reasons. Number one, not just your work ethic and your smarts, but the fact that you call yourself a dad first. I really respect anybody that puts that priority in their life, because business owners, myself being one of them, are notorious for putting their business and that focus on that drive and that for success ahead of their family members. So I really admire you for doing that. I think that's big kudos to you. Speaks highly to your character and you as a man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, guys, thanks very much. Follow Brad. You know where to get him on Copper Creek Cuts, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. And he has his own channel, like all of our UAG members do, on Echo Means Business. Follow the content that he's producing and the mentorship that he's giving you guys there on the mobile app or over on the website. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for another video.
Have a good one, everybody.